So this site, it's not a hill fort as in what we identify as hill forts. And that's the weird thing about Castle Hill. When you go there, there's something different about it in shape, and it's got a certain position which is, when you're looking at it from far away, it's on the top and seen, right, from far away. Now, normal hill forts don't really have any particular shape. They're usually miscellaneous shapes. Now, it has got some fortifications around the top, but that is mainly due to the laces following 1066. We don't know exactly what it looked like before that, and to be honest, I don't really trust that Varley guy who surveyed it anyway, because I think he had certain affiliations. But what the shape of it is, and what the style of it is like long barrow shape. And the long barrows are associated with the spiritual side of the prehistoric people and continuing into the Iron Age and the Celts. Because all the structures that are that shape that have been made, mounds, are connected with long barrows and various different types and styles of long barrows. So it has to class within the long barrow category because it is that shape. Now, the fact that it's large enough one to actually dwell on, to actually be to have people living on it, to be occupied, is significant, because if you've got such a long barrow then it's big enough to be occupied on, then you can live on it. And they are living on large structures because of the other hill forts that they're living on. Now, where other long barrows are usually located and other cairns are usually located that are connected to the spiritual side of that of those peoples, right, is somewhere high up that you can see. Now, all hill forts, they can be on hills, valleys and meadows, but they don't necessarily be on somewhere that's on a ridge or peak, which is where you find the cairns around the edge of Scotland and Wales and in Ireland, and even places like Bellasnap is up high up somewhere. So it immediately classifies as having similarities and comparable factual physical features that, in position, in style and in location and the type of location, it is more, to be honest, in common with the other long barrows, and not all of them are chambered, some of them are chambered, some of them aren't, than it has with a hill fort. The only thing that actually makes it more associated with hill fort is that it's big enough to be occupied and dwelled on, right? Now, if this is my proposal is that if you had an order of people or an organisation of people that were building long barrows and cairns around the islands in various places, and if they might have originated from a certain area or place where they had a headquarters for long barrows and cairns, then you'd have a bigger long barrow or cairn. Now, I know in Ireland they've got Newgrange and Knowth, which are circular shaped, and we know that is very much a centre and considered to be a significant, headquarters site in Ireland, and they're not long barrow shaped, they're round. But what Dr. Gail Higginbottom says is in England there was something in Britain, there was specifically something unique going on compared to the dolmens and cairns that are in Spain and France. She definitely says, and she's an expert in this, that in Britain the long barrows are particularly unique to Britain, and there was something slightly different going on. Now, with them distributed around mainly the perimeter of the island, satellite orbiting the islands, and there is some more inland as well. If they had somewhere that was, the place, where they might have originated from, it's likely that, particularly when we've got Dunelm as well, which is down the road, Meltham Cop. When we've got Meltham Cop, which is also that shape, we've got two of these shaped hills that are both that shape. One is in its natural form like that, and this is a natural form that's been shaped or built up as well. So you've got two, and they happen to be next to the Pennine Ridge, and just over the Pennine Ridge, apparently they're saying it could have all been lakes, or at certain times of the year could have been big lakes. So I think that it suggests that we've got two unique buildings within the proximity of each other, and then we've got the mound, which is 3.5 kilometres away as well. Now that is more shaped like a hill fort. That mound at Waterloo is more shaped like a hill fort, and I think it could have had its sides, identify it more as a hill fort for being fortified around the edges, smoothed over. Because this is the thing, if that site in Waterloo, right, that warrior burial mound, right, is recognised, if it was recognised as a hill fort, if it had sides like Old Oswestry around it, and it was definitely identified as a hill fort, right, then any other large structures or large buildings near it, close by, like at Shankton Brewing and Cis Brewing, you've got two hill forts within about the same distance, right? If you had one hill fort and that was a hill fort, well, what are the other two for? Do you really need three? Because why just not have a bigger one? Because if you wanted to have a lot of people in a hill fort, then you could have just, you know, built a bigger one like at Dorchester, made in Castle, or built a bigger one like at Oswestry. So, you know, why just not have a bigger one? So that suggests that maybe these other two, Dunelm and Castle Hill, aren't hill forts, because if we already had the hill fort at Waterloo, which was to live on, which is quite big, it's not that much smaller than Oswestry, and if it was around the size of Oswestry, it could be shaped and made a bit smaller, realistically, but it would have been too hard to completely level it. Now, it may have been a mound shape to represent a mound like Silbury Hill or a burial mound, but it's more, it has got that Liberty Cap shape to it generally, and it is quite steep, but it's not. The shape of it is, and the area size on top is more going towards the hill fort shape, and I think that it is that. Or if not, then it at least suggests that you could have two locations that are like giant long barrows that you live on, and another location that's like a burial mound that you live on, as spiritual centres of those mounds and long barrows that are around the island, orbiting it, satellite orbiting it around the coast and other places. I think that is more of a plausible theory than just, oh, Castle Hill's a hill fort and that mound there's nothing, and Dunelm's not nothing either. That's just, you know, it's just like, oh, a natural feature happens to be there, what a coincidence. I think that we've got two very big long barrows that are occupied, and they're connected with the other long barrows all around the island, maybe even the centre of that organisation, and then we've got the other hill fort as well, which puts three sites together close to each other. And three sites being this close is then significant, even if they're not the biggest, even if they're not the biggest hill forts like Maiden Castle, you can say they're the biggest long barrows. You could say that this and Dunelm are the biggest long barrows in Britain, and if something unique in Britain's going on, different to France and Spain, then you could even say that these long barrows here, right in the middle of the island, right in the middle of Britain, might even be something to do with it symbolically, and then they changed to prefer that shape, and then spreading them out around the rest of the island, but still in the original previous context and spiritual connection with the previous cairns and dolmens which have come up through France. But then obviously when we got here, then, you know, something else started to change and adapt from it, and then we got into the long barrows. So that's what I propose, and I think that it's a good, strong, plausible theory, and it would explain why Castle Hill itself is not quite like all the other hill forts around England, because when you get Cadbury's, you can look at Cadbury Castle, you can look at Oswestry and Maiden Castle and Uffington, and there are definitely a lot of very strong similarities going on between those, and they're all definitely in the same class and category. But when you get to Castle Hill, it's just that little bit different. And you can see and identify that it is a lot like, you know, West Kennet Long Barrow and Bellasnap Long Barrow and some of the other long barrows, but it is also big enough to go on top of and live on as well. But then you think, well, you know, but then we have got the other mound as well, and then another one like this, which is at Dunelm. So there's two. So I do think that's a plausible theory for it, and I do think that, you know, if I could get to talk to Howard Crowhurst and Gail Higginbottom, I don't think that they'd just think it was a laughable theory. And that would then make that this site that we're looking at now would be more of a spiritual site than just, you know, a hill fort like Cadbury's Ring Hill Fort, or, you know, the various other ones. It will put it more in context with the religious and spiritual side, rather than just the, you know, fortification side for the sake of having a larger town or city occupied, you know. So therefore, I think that it shouldn't be having like a cafe on it and commercial things on it, because being spiritual in a long barrow, I don't think that it's respectful to the history of it and the whole culture. And there are a lot of people who are interested in long barrows, you know, all the way, you know, from Wiltshire, even in France and Spain. They come over to Stonehenge and other sites. So there is a lot of people who like long barrows, and I think that this should be recognised more as a long barrow, rather than just a hill fort. And I think that the council should take that seriously in the decisions they make on it, and how the land should be governed and managed, not with commercial developments like cafes and things like that, which Dorchester Council and Oswestry would not dream of it. And I don't know what's going on with Huddersfield. There is some other force and entity at work behind the scenes which has been shaping and guiding directions, and like, for example, with the ICI that I did the video talk, and then putting the tower on there and things like that. And you can't ignore it. Only a fool would ignore it. And if I'm going to be persecuted or punished, you know, or intimidated by the powers that be in this government, then, you know, if the powers that be in the government want to intimidate me and harass me just because I'm indicating the truth of what I believe in and the facts, even if it doesn't align with their affiliations and their political agenda, then they can lump it. That's not my problem, because I am evaluating something with fact, just no differently to how an archaeologist evaluates it. And I believe this is a spiritual centre of England, being right in the middle of the island, and it is a long barrow. And any empirical entity or force in this country that would harass, annoy, provoke or intimidate me for pointing that out and indicating their errors and mistakes for wanting to build on it and put symbolic buildings, you know, around the area, you know, for their benefit and to the detriment of this area, then, you know, I say to that empirical force that they can go stick it where the sun don't shine, because I've had enough of them. I've had enough of them. I've had enough of the lies and corruption and misguiding this human race with the poisonous foods they've been giving us, pretending that they're, you know, helping us and pretending they're looking out for us, when they've only been interested in their own power, progress, conflict and domination, and people worshipping them, not actually being concerned about the real people and what's been happening to the people. A true spiritual leader would not want to harm, encourage people to be unhealthy, get them onto bad addictions, and then even sway their opinions, so they're even standing up and fighting for their own addictions, which are detrimental to them and their future and their children. That's not good. And if anyone in the Huddersfield area wants to give me flack for trying to, I'm not forcing people to be healthy, but it's irresponsible when people are being, you know, television's influencing people into addiction and things like that. I don't think it's a good thing. And then people are making money and benefit out of it, and then they're saying, oh, you know, we're building you all these better houses now. Why didn't they build them nice and better houses with nice gardens spaced out in the first place? They banged them into factories. What is the track record of this organisation that has taken over is that it hasn't been treating people very well at all, to be honest. I I don't think it has. And then, you know, to an extent where they've had to have two opposing parties, Labour and Conservative, were supposed to be in conflict with each other and fighting for better working conditions. If you'd have been supporting such a entity from the first place, you'd have never had to be fighting and campaigning for better working conditions and housing from the start. So when we're doing it now, why go and ruin other people's and detriment other people's areas? Why not think about it and come to more collaborated voting and discussion and agreements? But no, on social media they're not wanting to do that. They're even wanting to try and, you know, use blocking and obstructions, and Mark Zuckerberg's wanting to be in Scientology way of thinking, and people, you know, then you've got Anonymous saying, you know, we don't forgive people and all this, you know. To me, I don't think they want us to be in a position where we ever say anything, and that's the way that Boris Johnson and the Tories are going now, by wanting to not even let people vote unless they've subscribed to their services and businesses and pay £75 for a passport to vote, which means that if you ain't got much money, then you're not going to vote for anything. They only value people who are dominant and conquering, whereas there are people in this country who actually could have a lot better organisation of the country, where it's a lot fairer and people are a lot more understanding and negotiable and come to more agreements and want to listen and work things out together, not conquer and dominate people with bad habits and addictions and then, you know, business products and misusing technology. It's not good. It's not a good thing.